Ral West. I love talking to entrepreneurs. It's just the highs and lows of being a business owner and an entrepreneur. It's just so many businesses fail. And Ral's a really interesting case where her and her husband, through a long series of events, ended up buying some ships through an auction, but banks denied them at the first. They started getting into the cruise industry and travel industry. They loved the industry to partake in, and they got into the business and had a great team, had to create an application to help reservations back in the 90s. But just the journey of getting cash advances on your credit card just to make payroll. It's the highs and lows are just there. She has this 6 principle system now where she helps entrepreneurs. But just I love discussing the journey and love discussing things like delegation and culture of the organization. But just a great conversation with Ral. I really enjoyed the time. Thank you so much, Ral, and thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. And all I ask is you be yourself. What should people in the lower 48 know about Alaska?
Oh, gosh, there's lots of things. I mean, like right now, it's a beautiful sunshiny day. And
it's February.
Yeah.
And it's sunshiny, and temperature in Alaska is what?
Well, see, it depends on what part of Alaska. So maybe the biggest thing that people need to understand about Alaska is how big it is.
Right.
So the weather here is not like typical of elsewhere in Alaska, because I'm in Southeast Alaska. Right now it's 34 here, but later today it's going to be, as a high of 38. But last week it was in the low 50s.
Wow.
And no snow on the ground.
None.
No.
Huh. Is that unusual?
No, not for here. If you look at a map of Alaska, I'm backwards.
Upside down, hang loose.
Yeah. Okay, this is the Aleutian chain.
Yes.
And this is where we are, way down here. And Anchorage is like up here. So we're 1,000 miles from Anchorage, but 700 miles from Seattle. So Anchorage and Fairbanks, I used to live in Anchorage, and it was colder, and the snow was on the ground most of the winter. And it was a lot of times below freezing, but we don't get below freezing that often here.
So it's similar to Vancouver weather. You're closer to Vancouver.
And Seattle. Mm-hmm.
And Seattle.
Yeah. It's just we're a little bit colder and wetter.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. And wetter. I had a friend who was stationed in Kodiak Island, and he said the hardest part, not the hardest, one of the most difficult thing was they used volcanic ash to kind of melt the snow. So it would kind of get kind of dirty in the winter.
Well, I don't know about volcanic ash, but they put salt on it. They put sand on it. So yeah, breakup time in the spring, if you're in one of those places that has lots of snow, it's ugly. It's very brown because all the snow melts, and what you're seeing is the leftover sand and so forth that they put on it to keep it from being slippery. So yeah.
But you also live in Hawaii still?
We still have a home in Wailea, although it is on the market. We're selling it. We're going to end that chapter of our lives because our youngest daughter is having a baby in Arizona next month.
Congratulations. Yeah. So away you go. You're going to Arizona then.
Yeah. We're not going to buy a place there, but I'm going to be there for 6 weeks to help her with the arrival of her baby. Yeah.
So. And the best way to memorize that Alaska is 49 and Hawaii is 50 is how?
Oh, well, Alaska's always before Hawaii. It comes first alphabetically before Hawaii. There you go.
I always think of the show, Hawaii 5-0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we don't have that in Alaska, but just remember that A comes before H.
I guess that's the best way to do it. Yeah. It's wonderful. It's fascinating how your story is incredible. So I want to start with, you like to cruise.
Oh, I love to cruise.
You love your cruise. In fact, your name is named after your parents when they were doing the world cruise, correct?
Yeah. Gosh, you've done your homework.
And then not only do you love it, but you end up buying a cruise ship there in Seattle that you didn't get it because you did some inspection on it, and then it went up for auction. You got it for a steal. Tell me about that process.
Well, yeah. It was a long process. It took a while to get the offer accepted. First of all, on these two little ships, they've been sitting at the dock for 2 or 3 years. So we got an offer accepted by the bank. It was Washington Mutual, and we then hired people to do the diving to measure the hull, and the steel of the hull was not thick enough to meet Coast Guard standards. Whoa. So we went back to the bank and said, okay, you're going to need to lower the price by, this is the bid to replace that much steel. They said no. So we said, fine, enjoy paying for the mortgage and the security and the insurance and all of that, and go ahead and sit on your ships a while longer.
Wow.
So we walked away, sold our business to Alaska Airlines because we were thinking that we could use cruise ships to use our same infrastructure with our staff and our computer system and the software that we'd invested a lot of money in, and that we would be able to keep that going, but not compete with Alaska Airlines with the flights to Hawaii. And anyway, we consummated the sale, didn't have a use for everything, so we closed up the office and got rid of all of everything, and let our staff go with severance packages. And 2 years later, the Washington Mutual had been taken over by the FDIC, and their assets had gone to other banks. So the new bank that now owned these distressed assets called my husband and said, those 2 ships you tried to buy 2 years ago, they're going on the auction block this Friday. Wow. Do you want them? And he said, no, we don't have any use for them now. Why would we want them? And he and I talked about it. And I said, we can figure out something to do with them. Go ahead, make an offer. So he did, and it was accepted. And it was roughly about 18 cents on the dollar compared to what we'd been willing to pay 2 years prior. So my husband's big concern was, well, it's summertime. It's too late to put them in service next year because everybody's program for the summer comes out like 18 months in advance. So we were way too late. I said, well, it doesn't matter because we're getting them so cheap we can afford to sit on them for a year. So we sat on them and and took time to get them refurbished because they needed the steel work, and all of the interior needed upgrading. It was a mess. They really nobody had been taking care of the inside of those ships. It was terrible. So it took quite a bit to get them to be ready for passenger service. And we found a cruise line. A friend of ours owned a cruise line, and they had a couple of small ships, even smaller than these. And we said, would you like to increase your fleet? Yes. So we worked out a deal and leased the ships to them, and we put all the money in to fix them up. And they operated them and they marketed them. And then a year or so later, there was another cruise line that went bankrupt, and we bought the assets out of that bankruptcy. And now we had 5 ships.
Wow.
And they're all under 100 passengers.
Under 100 passengers. Very interesting.
Yeah. Small ship cruising is very, very popular.
It is. I hear about those river cruises in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. And, really, this is the best way to see Alaska.
Right.
Because you're on a big ship, you're 10 stories off the water. You're on a little ship, you can really see the whales and the seals and everything. Little sea otters.
Did you continue to cruise while you were in the cruise industry?
Sure. We saw our yacht is sitting at our dock in front of our house.
Wow.
Yeah.
You still love it?
Well, I love cruising. I'm not that enamored with the yacht anymore, but
why is that?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big yacht. It's 80 feet. So it takes a lot to run it. And so, you can get crew, and that costs a lot of money. So
sure.
We may be phasing out of that. We'll see.
I see. So let's go back, Ral. So you were going to start this business. You just before going into school, and you got an advisor, a mentor told you to buy E-Myth by Gerber. So tell me how it changed my life. Tell me how it changed yours, that book.
Oh my goodness. We had lunch with Robert Kiyosaki in Hawaii on the Big Island. We'd been taking classes from him for many years. This was way before he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by the way.
Wow.
So my first class with him was 1987. And I had to put it on a credit card because I couldn't afford it. But so, a friend said, yeah, you got to go to this class. And I went, yeah, I think I do. It was called Money and You. And I think I need to learn how to make money. So anyway, we kept up our relationship with him. So we had this lunch with him, and our business was growing. And he said, you guys need this book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and get the book, The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. I still have both of them. So we bought them that day and read them. And by the time we got back to Anchorage, we told our team, hey, things are going to be different. This is how we're running the company now. And I used those books plus everything that I'd gotten from my college education, which was, a late in life college degree, as I was a dropout in my sophomore year. So I went back to college in my late 30s. And just basically used our business as my guinea pig. Everything I learned, I tried out. And, sometimes it worked, sometimes it needed a little massaging.
I heard you say that sometimes you'd come back with an idea and the staff was like, uh-oh, she's got a new idea. What are we going to be doing now?
Oh my God. Yeah, they would just groan. Like, oh my God, you're such a change junkie, Ral. Like, yeah, well, yes, I am. I admit it. Yeah, I'm addicted to change. I'm not seeking a cure. So
I was part of a peer group. I'm in a tech firm, and we would meet quarterly. And sometimes I'd come back with with some ideas that they had, and I could just see my teams like, oh boy, what are we going to be doing now? And well, I mean, you want to continue to improve, and you just want to optimize.
Yes.
And
I'm kind of compulsive about about learning and growing. And I mean, this weekend I read a couple of, self-help and business books and so forth. I mean, I'm just doing it all the time. And then I pass it on to the folks in my mastermind. Like, yeah, guess what I learned? You need this too. So, yeah.
One of your 6 principles is systems. Let's talk about that. Just the systems people built. It doesn't have to be, written in stone, right? It can constantly evolve and iterate and improve.
It has to.
It has to.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to. You don't want to be doing the same things the same way today as you did 10 years ago.
That's right.
There was no AI 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and so many of these apps are brand new and more coming out every day. So you got to keep your eye on what's going on in the world around you. Yeah.
How important is it for an entrepreneur or business owner to be flexible like that, to be able to roll with these kind of changes?
It's imperative.
It's imperative, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if you don't, you're going to die.
Mm.
You know, if you don't grow, you're stagnating, and stagnation, I think, leads to death. And it's one seminar that I was at, because I do those all the time. Somebody said, if you're coasting, you're going downhill. And that slapped me in the face like a brick. And I was like, oh my God. In fact, I turned to my husband. I said, I don't want to coast, because I don't ever want to go downhill. No, never. So don't coast. And, many of my friends at my age are retired, and they're doing what they love. They have a great life. But to me, that's coasting, because that's me. I want to keep doing things and learning and growing. And it's taken my husband a little while to reconcile with the fact that that's just who I am, and I'm not going to stop, because he always said, well, can't we just, slow down and retire? And I'm like, no.
Some people aren't equipped for retirement. I'm certainly not.
Yeah.
I would slow down maybe a little bit, but is that?
I have a fabulous life. I do what I want.
That's
and
right.
If we play, when we go off to Europe for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, and we do what we want. So I'm not, a slave grinding away all the time. I work hard sometimes, and then I play hard.
I've heard you describe some of the low times in the business where you had to, take money out, cash advances on the credit cards just to pay payroll. And so what is your advice to?
You've listened to a lot. I'm flattered.
So what is your advice to those entrepreneurs, those business owners in those low points in their journey?
You have to take risks.
Yeah.
You have to take a big gulp and just do it, but not without doing your homework. There have been times when we took risks without doing enough homework. We thought we were doing enough, and then the 2020 hindsight slapped us in the face and went, okay, we should have looked at this and should have looked at that. So those are expensive learning experiences. We're not proud of, but we learned a lot. So.
How do you know when you have enough data to make a decision? Because if you go too soon, you might not have enough and you might rush it. If you wait too long, you may miss the opportunity. So how do you know when to make that decision?
I think if you wait until you know for sure, you've probably waited too long. Because, it's that analysis paralysis. Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah. Paralysis by analysis.
It's you have to combine looking at your data with some intuition and gut, and look for guidance from your higher power, whatever it is that you want to do. But sometimes you do go out on a limb and just with a wing and a prayer and say, I hope this works. And and most of the time for us, it has. Like I said, we have had some monumental failures, but most of the time it's been successes. And then the failures have been, good opportunities to learn what not to do the next time.
I remember
don't be afraid of failing. That's the big message.
Yeah. Too many of us are a little too cautious. The two big takeaways I remember from Jeff Bezos' book. One was he never has a team that can't be fed with 2 pizzas, right? They're small teams. And the other was this whole issue of collecting data. So I may have this wrong, Ral, but I believe, so the idea is that the leadership gave management leeway to make decisions. And there was a number that he had in mind. If you get 10% of the information, it's too small. If you get 100% of the information, it's too late. So his number was 70. If you could prove that you got 70% of the research done and it fails, there'll be no repercussions. That's pretty good, don't you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't heard of it, being that precise in terms of the data. How do you know that you've got 70%?
Yeah, you had to prove that, because I guess the whole thing, when you made your case, the thing is I could have waited a couple extra months to get this information, and that would have been 100. And I don't know, it was measured somehow. And I hope I have this all right. I may not, but I believe that was the other big takeaway is the way they have meetings over there. How the person preparing the meeting actually writes everything, prints it out, and for the first 45 minutes, they read the document together. So it's none of this reading. There's no slide decks. There's no PowerPoint ever there. So they're sitting in a conference room and everybody reads at the same time to themselves, write down notes, and then they have a discussion. So nobody has to be prepared, or if they're not prepared. So that's the three things I took away from how AWS works.
That's very interesting. I have not heard of that kind of system before.
And they're right in your backyard. You were in Seattle for a while, weren't you?
I grew up in Seattle.
Yeah.
I was born and raised there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that is a system, actually.
That is a system.
Yes.
Yes.
When you were talking earlier about systems can be as simple as what your morning routine is. You know, that you create a system, and a system for double checking things, or a system for putting things on your calendar, or how many. The other day, somebody said to me, "I have 3 calendars." I'm going, "Oh my God, why would you have 3 calendars? That's not a good system." You have to check 3 places every time you need to know if you're available. So no, one system is just put everything on one calendar. And another system that we use is certain calendars, on the master calendar, certain types of meetings and so forth are shared with my husband, with our daughter, with people who may need to know. And then some types of calendar items are not shared. So, but that's, a way of communicating to people. Yeah. If my husband wants to know if we're free on a particular day, all he has to do is look at our shared calendar.
Mm. And do you document? Do you make SOPs, procedures?
I do. I try to. I cannot tell a lie that I don't do it 100% of the time.
Right.
So, I never wrote down the thing about what I just told you. I just do it.
Right. You had this one great story of how flexible you were, and found that there was a need because clients were being held at the airport and they couldn't, for a long time. And you ended up having a party for them. You'd have all the kids stuff ready. And so it's just a new procedure that you had to make, that you adopted and you put forth because of that need that you saw from the client.
Right. And actually, I have to credit our team for coming up with that idea. We had such a fabulous team. We still call them our Ohana, and we still get together with them, even though it's been 18 years since we sold the business. Or is it? Yeah, 18 years. So, yeah, we, the way our flights worked, if we had a delay, since the plane originated in Honolulu, if it had some kind of a mechanical by the time it got to Anchorage, they may need to, do something extensive to fix it. You didn't have another plane sitting in Anchorage that could take the people to Hawaii. So sometimes the delays would cause the crew to what's called go dead. FAA requirement, you can only fly so many hours, flight attendants and pilots. So they had to have their rest period. And whatever time that was, whether it was 8 hours or 10 hours, I can't remember, they would need to go to a hotel and get their rest. So the flight couldn't leave until the crew came back, and we didn't have a spare crew sitting around in Anchorage. So our team noticed that there were, families with, crying babies, and the mothers would say, "What do I?" And all the shops at the airport were closed because our flights usually left at around midnight. Shops were closed. I need extra diapers. I didn't plan on an extra 12 hours. What do I do? I need more formula. I need more diapers. So the team said, "Hey, why don't we just have those on hand?" So we just, dug into our pockets, and we would stock up on bottled water, diapers, formula, anything else that we could think of to just help mitigate the uncomfortable situation. Delays are awful. Nobody likes them, but at least we could try to make them a little bit more comfortable. And, and then our our people, our passengers, at least knew that we were caring and we were trying to do something.
It's out of your control.
Yeah, it is. It was. So, so we just, and there was a time early in our chartering business where we weren't focused as much on our customers as we should have been. We were more focused on the numbers. We were guaranteeing these flights. So the amount that that we had to cover if we didn't sell enough seats was huge. And so we were very focused on just driving the business by meeting those numbers. And then it became apparent that our customers were not happy. We weren't taking care of them, and we were getting bad feedback. And of course, at the same time, I was going to college, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, okay, stop. So then we did an about face and changed the whole culture of the company to be focused on customer satisfaction and delighting our customers. And we started measuring customer satisfaction, getting regular feedback, and we started measuring. Because one of their big complaints was that they would have to call us to make a reservation. We didn't have an online reservation system in those days. In fact, in the 1990s, in fact, a lot of people still called airlines to make their reservations.
Amazing.
Not even all travel agents had the automation. So the hold times were terrible, half hour, an hour, or longer on hold. Both travel agents and direct customers would have to sit on hold because we only had so many sales agents. And we said, Dad, this can't be. This is not good. We're getting too many complaints. I mean, we'd hire more people, but we just couldn't keep up. So at some point we said, you know what, we need an online reservation system, and we need to invest in building the software, because there was no place out there for us to just buy an online reservation system for a company like ours. There weren't many other companies like ours. So we had to find a software company. They said, yeah, we can build that for you. And we said, oh, we don't want to be the beta. And I said, oh, no, we're doing this for other businesses. And went, okay. But no, we ended up being the beta. So it took 2 years and, well into the 6 digits to get this software up and running. And this was 6 digits in, end of the 90s dollars, not today's dollars.
Right.
And that was a huge commitment for us. But once we flipped that switch and our reservations were available 24/7, whether we had people working or not, wow.
Differentiate.
I mean, pardon the pun, but the business took off.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't long before we were into the mid 8 digits of annual revenue.
You mentioned you had a good team. Any hiring practices you want to share?
Sure. Well, one thing I did was that I gave everybody a test.
Okay.
I made up a little quiz. So they didn't get an interview until they had passed a certain test. And of course, we looked at their resumes, and if they didn't know how to put together a decent resume, they weren't even considered. So I gave them a little quiz just to see, how's their handwriting? Do they spell okay? Do they know where Hawaii is? Things like that. It was, like a 1-page thing. It was not a big deal. It just gave me a little bit of an idea as to their aptitude. And then the interview was usually, at least an hour long, and a lot of me selling them on the company and the company culture. This is what we're about. This is how we operate. Can you fit into this culture? And then I'd ask them some probing questions as well. But it was also important to do what we coined. I don't know if we coined this phrase or not, but we used it. We fired them before we hired them. Meaning we laid out the expectations. It's like, these are the non-negotiables. These are the things that we will not tolerate. If you're hired and you do this, you're out. So they could, at the point of, before they joined us, they could decide whether they could live with that kind of, requirement or standard. So you have to establish those standards going in and make sure that they fully understand what's going on. And so, maybe sometimes we'd have a second interview. And then if it was for the reservations agents, I developed a training program. So I realized there was one time that I hired somebody, she ended up being with us for over 20 years, but her first day I said, there's the phone, go answer it, take a booking. And that was the extent of the training. And, that really wasn't enough.
Right.
So it was horrible. But we were frantic, and so I said, okay, we need a training system. And when it got to the point where we were hiring like a half a dozen people at a time, we said, okay, we'll do a cohort and we'll put them in a 2-week training program. And we developed the curriculum. I taught some of it. Some of our department heads taught some of it. Every department in the company got to contribute to the training so that everybody would understand this is what accounting does, this is what operations does, this is what reservations does, have some hands-on stuff, a lot of product knowledge. This is Hawaii, these are the hotels and the condos, and this is the air service. Make sure that they were fully briefed before we ever let them touch a phone. And then after the 2 weeks, and you could wash out, you might not make it through the training. And we told them not everybody in this class is going to be hired. So if they didn't do well enough, we would pay them a small amount to be in the training, because it was 8 hours a day for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But we didn't have to hire them. So, we had high standards. So when they made it, then they got assigned a mentor, somebody who was more experienced, who would sit with them and monitor their calls and make sure that they were okay before we let them loose.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. When you're hiring like that, Ral, how often do you use your gut? I mean, you see the resume, you see these tests, you see how they've done in the classes, but maybe something in your gut's telling you something different. Do you rely on that?
You have to.
You're kind of less guard. You have to.
You have to. Yeah. It's all of the above. Yeah. There might be something about someone that just, feels off. Or in some cases, it's like, someone's maybe not coming across as confident as they could, but I sense a lot of talent. I sense a lot of hunger, and give them a go. And some of our best hires were people that I kind of doubted in the interview, but I gave them a shot because I saw something. And then it's your culture has to
let's talk about
cultivate and nurture everyone. And I don't know. I've talked to business owners who, you can tell that they don't trust their people. It's like, I give them these things to do and they just never do it right. And it's like, and they don't do it the way I want them to do it. Like, well, okay, let's look at what kind of guidance you're providing and what kind of environment are you creating? Are you providing an opportunity for them to win, or are you looking for a way for them to fail? So how do you treat them, and how do you set up your culture so that it is truly a win-win environment? If you listen to enough of my podcast, you've heard about me talking about our WERQ.
That's
win-win.
right. Work.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Win-win, efficiency, responsibility, and quality. So if it's a win-win, you need to allow your people to have a win, and to allow them to feel valued and important. And, I've suggested to some business owners, why not let your people be involved in that decision? Because business owners will say, well, I've got to figure this out, and then I'll let my team do it. Really? Well, why not have them be involved in figuring it out? Do you not trust that they have some knowledge of what they're up against day in, day out? I needed to rely on our frontline people to know what being on the front line really involved. Yeah, you look to them. You can't be the expert in everything. Goodness sakes. I mean, I like to think that I'm smart, but I don't know everything. So rely on other people.
I've had a lot of hires, Ral, and a lot of them were not good, but a lot of them I blame on myself and it's just poor managing. I remember my first salesperson I hired. This is in the '90s, mid '90s. He was a salesperson, and I said, and I handed him the yellow pages. I said, "Go get me work." So, I mean, that couldn't be any worse, right? I mean,
yeah. That's kind of like me saying, "Go answer the phone."
Yeah, that's right. It's a terrible. It's amazing. Obviously it didn't work out, but I blame. So let's go back to culture. I've heard you say, and I find it too. If you don't create culture, it'll create itself. There's always a culture, whether it's determined or not. So you've got to be careful. You've got to shape it. I've heard you say you celebrate really well. You took everybody to Las Vegas, I think, for an evening, and you're making sure you celebrate the wins. But that culture has to be. You have to give it attention.
Yes, you do. You have to be intentional about the culture. And I credit, my college classes in organizational culture. I studied that a lot, wrote lots of papers. I still have them. And, yes, you have to decide what culture you want, and then you create it. I mean, like right now, my husband and I are deciding what kind of relationship we want going forward. We're in a couples program, because hey, we've been married almost 43 years. Wow. It's never too late to redefine, and let's take a look at where our relationship is. We're at a different phase of our lives, so it's maybe not the same relationship that it was when we had young kids or when we were operating businesses on at a real active basis. So what do we want? So yes, you can decide. You can be intentional. You can decide, what are our values? What are our principles? What do we want the purpose of our company to be, purpose of our relationship to be? Yes, you can do all of these things very intentionally, but it does take a little bit of time. You can't just wish it into existence.
Patience.
You have to focus on it. Have a little meeting with whether it's just with yourself or with your key team members. Say, let's talk about our purpose. Let's talk about, mission statement, values, whatever you want. It can, I don't believe in any like strict formula, like your mission statement has to say da 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 da. It has to work for you. So what is it that's going to guide you and then therefore your business? But the real values and the principles have to come from the founder, from the leader. And you have to walk your talk. Don't just pick something out of the air and then put it out there, and then your team sees you doing something quite the opposite. That doesn't work.
No. So, it's very similar to parenting, by the way. But you mentioned this before. Another one of your principles, and I find this when I work with a lot of these smaller technology firms, is delegation. Right? I mean, when the CEO insists that he has to order the pizza, that there's a problem, right? Anybody can do that. So 80-20 rule. Like, how do you work with people who don't delegate well?
We have to do a mindset shift. Okay. So we have to, I mentioned before, trusting. So you have to trust, but there's blind trust too. So let's not go there. You have to do the work of setting up the guidelines as to what you want done. Okay. So you outline, what is the end result that you're looking for? What is that good job? What does that good job look like? And give them the opportunity again to win by doing a good job, because most people really do want to do a good job. They want to feel good about what they've accomplished. So let them win by making it very clear what it is that you're looking for. And then Robert Kiyosaki taught us about a fruit bowl theory of business. So you've got a bowl. The bowl is made up of wood, metal, glass, ceramic, whatever material. But the bowl keeps its shape, right? Because it's a solid. But the fruit within that bowl needs to be free to, flop around however it wants. Maybe you got bananas, grapes, apples, oranges, peaches, whatever. And let the fruit find its own, arrangement within that bowl. And that's what we tried to do, is give them the bowl, give them the guidelines. And, and there could be strict guidelines as to, what's tolerable and what's not. And then give them the principles like our WERQ. And okay, if you're following these principles and you're producing the outcome that we want, good job. Good job. Sometimes it didn't look exactly the way I wanted it to look. Sometimes they went about it, their fruit and their bowl was different than my fruit. And then I had to ask myself, okay, did we meet the objective? Did the job get done? And then that's where my mindset comes in. It's like, okay, I have to be able to step back and let go a little bit and let them do it their way.
Very important. Let them discover it their own way. You work with your husband, Ral, and I heard you say that at a certain point you realized that he was very good at sales and negotiating contracts while you were good at, kind of making procedures and things like that. So you actually worked out pretty well. How did you avoid not bringing it home every night, though? I mean, is it challenging? What's your advice to couples that want to work, that are going to work together?
Oh, I don't think we did avoid that.
Really? At night you were still talking about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, ask our daughters. Oh, my goodness. They got quite the education in business. Certainly we brought it home. But for us, our passion for business is part of our relationship. It's part of what fuels us. And, as I was saying earlier about my, obsession with learning and growing, we both are. So we're still signing up for seminars and, retreats. And, I mean, like I said, we signed up for this couples thing. I mean, who does that at our age? But we still do. We both just finished a whole round of Tony Robbins events. We're still moving and learning and growing. So that part of it was exciting to us. And most of the time we were on the same wavelength. And yes, he had his lane and I had mine. Sometimes we would cross over into each other's lanes and then we would have words. We tried not to do it in front of the kids, the team, but sometimes we did. So, oh well, we're human. And, but most of the time when we got down to it, it's like, okay, this is your position and this is mine, but we would come to an agreement, a compromise. And we also did that through doing extensive remodels of several homes and building one home from scratch. So if you can survive that, you can get through just about anything.
You now work with business owners, with entrepreneurs. You have your 6 principles. Who's a candidate for your kind of work mentorship?
Any business owner who finds that they feel overworked, overwhelmed, too much of the business is resting on my shoulders. I would like the business to grow, but I can't. I don't have enough time. I don't, I have to put all this stuff in place. And I have to do this. They need help because they have to realize that they need to branch out and get a team and use some systems, get some leverage. These are some of my principles, and they need some guidance as to what they need to do and how they need to go about it. And I'm a perfect mentor for them because I've done it. I've been there, been in their shoes. I know how it feels, and I know how to get out of it without, just a wave the magic wand and now it's all better. You have to take it one step at a time and you work through it. And it's a step-by-step process. It took us like 5 years to really, from the time Robert Kiyosaki said, here, get the E-Myth, to the time when we could walk away and hand the operation of our business over to, a chief operating officer and a chief financial officer. That was 5 years.
Wow.
So, but I think because of that, I can help a business owner do that same process in much less time because of the fact that I did it.
And who won't you work with?
Someone who doesn't want to change.
Right.
Yeah. If they're stuck in this is the way, I don't really want to delegate. I love being a solopreneur and I don't ever want to grow. Well, then you don't need me.
Right. Kind of that lifestyle. I know there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If that's what they like, there's a lifestyle. I mean, that's completely up to them.
If they love working 80 hours a week, go for it.
That's right. Go for it. Yeah. Is there something you believed, Ral, 10 years ago, really believed in that you no longer believe now?
Oh, wow. Joe, that is an interesting question that I have not had posed to me before.
10, 15 years ago.
10, 15 years ago, I think maybe I believed in my limitations more than I believe now. I think that I, had the mindset that was more easily succumb to the imposter syndrome and things like that. And I couldn't do that. That's not me. I couldn't do that. And now I'm more, not totally over all of that, but I'm more of the, why not? Just go for it. Why not? And yes, it is, I've kind of always had that anything is possible belief. I got that from my parents, but I was putting a lid on myself in many ways through the years. And, I've grown up. And I think I am better equipped now to just take on more of a challenge and set my sights even higher than I ever thought I could.
Amazing.
Like, Russell Wilson, the Seahawks famous quarterback, always said, why not me? Why not us? So now I'm kind of like, why not me? Why can't I be on that stage or write that book or be on that podcast?
You mentioned imposter syndrome. Do you see that a lot when you talk to people?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's everywhere. I mean, I think the universal underlying fear and belief from everyone, even Tony Robbins says this, is that I'm not enough. I used to think it was only me that ever thought that, but no, it's pervasive. And I think if you look at, the root of many of the insecurities in the world are that, that basic, I'm not enough. And that's akin to the imposter syndrome, like, ooh, do I really know as much as I think I do?
There's doubt, there's haters. I heard this great analogy recently, Ral, where the crow is the only bird that attacks the eagle. So the eagle will be flying and the crow will land on its back and start pecking at it. Now the eagle will not shake it off. It'll just continue to fly higher because it knows at a certain altitude, the crow can't handle it. When it gets to that altitude, the crow just falls off. So when the world is at you, it's pecking at you, just continue to rise.
I like that. And I have eagles and crows and ravens right here in my yard. They're sitting on top of our boat and doing what. Anyway, but I have seen a pesky raven. I mean, an eagle will be on a branch holding like a piece of a salmon, entrails.
Yes.
That's dinner, right?
Yes.
And a raven will come along and try to steal that from the eagle.
Wow.
It's like, you bugger.
Yeah, that's the world out there. Is there a question that you wished more people would ask you?
I wish more people would ask me for help. Like, how do I do this? How can I fix this? How can I be better? Yeah, I think a lot of the business owners that I run across want to portray themselves as having it all. I got it figured out. I'm good. I don't need any help. And I wish more would say, you know what? I could really use some guidance here. I could really use a voice of experience to help me with this. And I think we all need that help.
Yeah.
And having a mentor is a brilliant move for anyone. And you can have mentors in many areas of your life.
Right.
I've got mentors for my health. I've got mentors for physical fitness, mentors for business, or for relationships. We have to learn from others. We were not born with little manuals that teach us, everything. And they certainly don't teach us this stuff in school. So reach out to other people who may have been there, done that.
I find as I get older, I have more questions than I have answers.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Curious, constant curiosity. So I started my business back in the 90s, similar to you, and I was working way too hard, 14, 16-hour days. I heard, stories similar to yours, right? So I was putting health in the back seat, and I wasn't paying attention to myself and developing bad dietary habits. And I heard you talk about eating fast food with your kids, at the office and stuff, you just kind of, and you don't think anything of it because you just have to get whatever's on, whatever fire, you got to put it out. And next thing I know, I'm at the doctor and she tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained all this terrible amount of weight. I didn't know I was that big. Yes. I didn't know I was that big. I thought I was big. I didn't know I was that big. But she tells me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So I'm driving home.
That's a gut punch.
That's good. Yeah. She didn't motivate me. She angered me, but she knew what she was doing. So, spent the next 6, 7, I could abuse myself all I want, Ral, right? But it's much bigger than me now. I have this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl that somehow I'm responsible for bringing into this world. And, it's much bigger than me. So the next 6, 7 months, I lost about 130 pounds. I kept it off. You can't look at these things as finishing lines. These are lifelong changes,
Congratulations.
So when I tell people this, they always say, what's your secret? What you do? And I say, there's no secret. Discipline. Focus, routine, motivation. That's how I lost. That's how I keep it off. How does discipline play a role in your life, Ral West?
Oh, gosh, there's areas where I wish I had more. But
me too.
You know what I keep hearing from my mentors is that you've got to have a why. And I think for you, what you just told me, you had a very important, very motivating why, your daughter. And that's what kept you from making the wrong choices, because it's all about choices, isn't it? So discipline is, maybe I like the word or don't like the word. Mostly I like the idea of making the right choice. And I just heard someone recently say, if I eat this donut, will it give me, whatever that goal is? That I think, well, actually, it was a story about a rowing team. I think it was the British rowing team who came, as an underdog and won whatever race it was. Maybe it was the Olympics. I don't know. And, and everybody on that team would ask themselves, if I ate this donut, or if I had this hamburger, or if I stay out too late the night before a race, or if I do, will it help us win the race? And their motivation, their desire, their why was winning that race. So they were able to make choices based on that motivation, that why. So if you want to call that discipline, great. But I think if you come from your heart and your why is big enough and important enough, you will find ways to demonstrate or act as if you're disciplined, because you will be doing the things that are right in order to achieve that goal, that why. So, one of my whys was to be there for my grandchildren. We have 3 grandchildren in Australia, and they're very active, very energetic. I needed to be able to keep up with them, So I started working out. And I've always been one of those, I hate exercise kind of people, but I had a why. So I hired a trainer and I started going to the gym and I started lifting weights so that I could lift up my grandchildren. 30, 40 pounds of grandchild. I needed to be able to lift them without going, So yeah, and I have this why. One of my whys is I want to live a really long time. I want to live well into my hundreds.
Wow.
So how do you do that? You take care of yourself. So that has helped me be more disciplined when it comes to eating and drinking and, other things.
Was discipline discussed in the household as a child, or was it just kind of exemplified?
No. It was meted out. I mean, there was discipline if you screwed up. But it was, no, I didn't have enough of that kind of guidance. My parents were good examples in some ways. My father was a fabulous example when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And my mother was extremely loving and very classy. And I learned from her where there's a will, there's a way, and, have that positive attitude. So lots of things like that. But I don't think that they were examples of, living a really disciplined life. Our life was very somewhat chaotic. We traveled all the time. So, yeah.
Is there something, Ral, that you changed your mind on in the last month or so?
Okay. Gosh, Joe, you really just sling them out there, don't you? In the last month. Okay. Now this is getting personal. Speaking of mentors, I hired a group to help me with my health. Not because I was sick or I'm not sick. I've always been incredibly healthy, but just, again, I want to live a long time. So how can I make sure that I'm optimizing my health? And I've got a few little nagging issues that, they're just annoyances rather than, anything serious. And so I signed up for this program called a metabolic reset. And I signed up for it, thinking, oh God, I'm not sure I could go through with this. I'm just like dragging my feet, but there was a part of me that was committed to just being better, being healthier. And the program involved testing, get your saliva, get a blood test, and find out, what foods cause inflammation. I had no idea that inflammation was causing so many just little issues with my body. Turns out some of the things that I have always just loved and I've always said, I could not live without ice cream. And wouldn't you know, one of the things that causes inflammation is casein, which is a major milk protein. And so now I'm not supposed to eat any dairy, which includes ice cream and sour cream and a lot of other things that I really love. And no alcohol. And I love my wine. So a month ago, I thought, I can't live without ice cream, or I can't live without wine. But here I am, and I am.
Turns out.
Without them. And, I've been a couple weeks into this incredibly restricted diet where it's like 4 ounces of protein and 4 ounces of vegetables and 4 ounces of fruit twice a day, and that's it. And I was like, okay. Yeah, it sounded awful, but it's not so bad.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypinz.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Good for you. Well, I was really excited when we set this up. I thank you so much for your time. Anybody watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
RalWest.com is the website. And if you want to talk with me and let's, just talk about what you're facing with your business, do ralwest.com/let's talk.
And Ral is just RALWSET, Ral West.
West, yeah. Right.
We'll make sure to put in the show notes. You got a great YouTube as well, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You're all there.
Yeah, it's just 7 letters. Yeah.
Couldn't be easier. Next time I'm in Alaska, well, Southeast Alaska, perhaps where you, your husband, and I, and my friend will get a cup of tea.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Yeah, we're in Sitka, Alaska, on the Pacific Ocean.
Very nice. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with 1 or 2 of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.